The world has always been captivated by the royal family, gripped by their glamour, their power, and their pristine image. But behind Buckingham Palace's towering walls, there's a truth that no one ever imagined. A truth that would shake the monarchy to its core. What if everything we believed about the royal family's perfect life was an illusion? What if the public face they've shown us for generations has been hiding a deeply human struggle? A struggle that was kept secret for months, until now. This is a story of love, secrecy, and betrayal that no one saw coming. In a world where appearances matter above all, one royal figure broke the silence, shattering the carefully constructed image of perfection. Princess Catherine, the picture of poise, has finally revealed the truth behind her silence, and it's more shocking than anyone could have predicted. What she said next would not only change the course of royal history, but it would leave the world questioning everything they thought they knew about the monarchy. Stay tuned for an explosive revelation that will leave you speechless. But before we dive deeper into this shocking truth, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Every like, share, and comment helps us continue bringing you exclusive content like this. Your support means the world to us, and you don't want to miss the latest updates as history unfolds in the lives of the royal family. For months, there were whispers, quiet murmurs of something amiss within the royal family. These whispers weren't just idle gossip. They were the first signs of something deeper, something the palace didn't want us to see. The absence of Prince Louis from public events became more noticeable with each passing week. First, it was subtle, just a slight omission from family portraits and official schedules. But then, things escalated. The Easter celebration came and went, and Prince Louis was nowhere to be seen. His name was on the official itinerary, but his presence was completely absent. People started to ask questions. Why was Louis, the youngest prince, missing from so many key events? At first, the palace maintained its usual calm, attributing his absence to the need for a quiet time at home. But that explanation didn't sit well with the public. There had to be more. The world watched as the absence of Prince Louis grew louder than any royal statement could explain. The tipping point came when Princess Catherine, poised and dignified, stood before a small group of trusted aides and family members at Buckingham Palace. What she revealed wasn't just a shock to the monarchy, it was a revelation that shattered everything we thought we knew about the royal family. In a statement that was carefully written but filled with emotion, Catherine addressed the world and confirmed what many had feared. Prince Louis's health was in serious jeopardy. But it wasn't just the news itself that shook the world. It was the way Catherine delivered it. Her voice was measured, yet full of vulnerability, carrying the weight of both a mother's love and a royal figure's duty. This wasn't just about a prince's health, it was about a mother's fierce protection of her child, a truth that transcended the palace's walls. Catherine spoke of the battles they had faced behind closed doors, the sleepless nights, and the quiet fears that no one had ever seen. Her voice wavered as she spoke of Louis, and for the first time, we saw the humanity behind the royal image. For months, the world had been speculating, and now it all made sense. The absence of Prince Louis wasn't just a matter of a busy schedule, it was the result of something far more serious. Slowly but surely, patterns began to emerge. Prince Louis had been missing from official royal portraits. The image that was supposed to show the warmth of a united family was, instead, missing the very essence of that unity, Louis himself. The now infamous Portraitgate controversy only added fuel to the fire. A family photograph that had been carefully curated to reflect royal harmony turned into a global debate when eagle-eyed observers noticed that Louis was nowhere to be found. Social media exploded, experts in digital forensics weighed in, and the public became more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Every time Prince Louis's absence was noted, it felt like a piece of the royal puzzle was being hidden from the world. And the more the palace tried to cover it up, the more questions were raised. Then, just when it seemed like the royal family's carefully constructed silence would hold, disaster struck. A confidential medical file was leaked, one that detailed Prince Louis's ongoing health condition. Words like progressive markers, longitudinal observation, and neurodevelopmental tracking surfaced. The file wasn't sensationalized. It didn't need to be. The facts alone were enough to send shockwaves throughout the monarchy and beyond. The leak wasn't a careless mistake. It was a bombshell that exposed the royal family's vulnerability in a way that no one had anticipated. The public now had access to information that had been hidden behind the palace's doors for months, and no amount of royal spin could undo the damage done by this unexpected breach. Inside Buckingham Palace, chaos ensued. Staff scrambled to control the narrative, legal teams worked around the clock to prepare statements, and royal advisors fought to maintain the image of discretion that had been the monarchy's hallmark for centuries. But despite their best efforts, the truth had already been leaked, and the world knew. Princess Anne, typically the royal family's stoic voice of reason, couldn't stay silent. In a powerful and emotional confrontation, she went directly to King Charles and demanded answers. Her voice trembled with emotion as she told him, "You've failed Louis. You've failed all of us." The room fell silent as Anne, usually calm and composed, became the voice of rebellion within the royal family. For the first time, the monarchy's silence was broken not by scandal, but by the deep pain of a family in crisis. The clash between tradition and truth was undeniable, and the public could see it all unfold. Behind closed doors, Princess Catherine had been grappling with her own fears and frustrations, and it was in a private moment when she wrote a letter to her husband, Prince William, that the full weight of the situation became clear. The letter was not a plea for attention. It was a raw and deeply emotional expression of everything Catherine had been holding in. The letter detailed sleepless nights spent by Louis's bedside, consultations with specialists who had been brought in under false names, and the immense pressure Catherine had faced to maintain composure in the public eye. But the most heart-wrenching part of the letter was the admission that even William, strong as he appeared, was breaking down behind the scenes. He had been silently battling his own fears, trying to balance royal duties with the heart-wrenching realities of being a father. One line in the letter stood out. "He is slipping away, and they want me to smile." Those words captured the impossible expectations of royal life, the constant pressure to maintain a perfect image, even when everything behind the scenes was falling apart. And then, just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more intense, an unexpected figure entered the fray. Prince Harry, long exiled from the royal family, did what no one expected. He became the voice of conscience. After years of distance, Harry reached out directly, becoming the champion for truth and transparency in a time of crisis. His actions shocked everyone. In that moment, Harry transcended his past controversies, emerging as a powerful force for change within the royal family. Catherine's phone buzzed just as she sat down, preparing for the inevitable storm ahead. The world was watching, and the palace was bracing for her next move. But when she saw Harry's name flash across her screen, she froze for a moment. The mixture of surprise, caution, and even hope flashed across her face. Despite everything, a part of her knew this was more than just a call. It was a lifeline. She answered, and the words that Harry spoke were not those of a prince standing on ceremony. They weren't words from the man who had distanced himself from the royal family. No, these were words from someone who had lived it, someone who understood the pain of being locked in a gilded cage, trapped between duty and love, silence and truth. "I know what it's like to be kept in the dark," Harry said, his voice calm but firm. "You have to tell them. They'll never understand if you don't." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Catherine held her breath. Harry's words resonated with a part of her that had been buried beneath layers of palace pressure. She knew this wasn't just a piece of advice. It was the encouragement she had desperately needed. For 37 minutes, Catherine and Harry spoke without interruption. No palace aides, no recordings, just two voices, connected by a shared understanding of grief, pressure, and the heavy burden of secrecy. Harry listened to her quietly, letting her unload her fears and frustrations. The weight of the past few months seemed to lift for a brief moment. Catherine felt heard, and she felt understood. She had never imagined that Harry, the person whose actions had so often been criticized, would become the person to pull her out of the palace's suffocating silence. When the call ended, Catherine's mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. She had been holding back, too afraid of the consequences, of the backlash, of the palace's reaction. But Harry's words, "You have to tell them," had unlocked something within her. She wasn't alone in this fight anymore. Back in Montecito, Meghan reportedly reacted to Harry's call with tension. Sources claim that the conversation between the two was strained, a reminder of the reasons why Harry and Meghan had distanced themselves from the royal family in the first place. Meghan, always protective of Harry, was said to have been deeply concerned about the potential fallout from his decision to intervene in royal matters again. But for Harry, this wasn't about old grudges or family drama. This wasn't about division or revenge. It was about breaking a cycle of silence, something that had caused him so much pain and hardship. He saw Louis's story as a reflection of his own struggles, of being trapped under the microscope of public scrutiny, of being forced to hide truths in the name of duty and tradition. The call to Catherine wasn't just about offering advice, it was about offering solidarity, a lifeline to someone who needed it just as much as he did. Harry understood that breaking the silence wasn't just necessary for Catherine, it was necessary for the monarchy itself. The conversation wasn't an instant fix. It didn't solve everything. It didn't wipe away the past years of silence or heal the rift between them. But it did something no one thought possible. It reopened a door that had been slammed shut for months. As Catherine's public statement grew closer, the tension at Buckingham Palace reached a fever pitch. Hours before she was set to deliver her address, King Charles made an unprecedented attempt to stop her. Sources inside the palace described the situation as desperate and dramatic, with some insiders even claiming that it bordered on unconstitutional. At 2:43 a.m., a confidential encrypted directive was issued. The title alone sent shockwaves throughout the palace. Immediate containment protocol, category read. The objective was clear: to prevent Catherine from delivering her public statement. The palace sought to discredit her voice, her authority, and her role as a mother. They argued that she was emotionally unstable and was acting outside the monarchy's interests. For the first time, the palace wasn't just trying to control the narrative, it was attempting to silence one of its own senior royals. The desperation in the message was palpable, but despite the palace's efforts, there was no stopping Catherine now. The wheels had already been set in motion. The pressure then shifted to William. Desperate for a resolution, palace officials summoned him for an emergency briefing. They urged him to intervene, to stop Catherine before her statement became irreversible. The plea was blunt, brutal, and clear. The palace's carefully constructed image was at risk, and they needed William to do something, anything, to stop Catherine from going public. The conversation was heated, with palace officials arguing that Catherine was jeopardizing the monarchy's image. But William, torn between duty and love for his wife, was left in an agonizing position. His loyalty to Catherine clashed with his duty to the institution. It was a battle of wills, not just between the monarchy and Catherine, but between the truth and the control that the palace so desperately clung to. And as Catherine prepared to go public, the royal family faced its most difficult challenge yet, one that would change the future of the monarchy forever.